The beginning of the quiet spark. Story begins on a cold morning when the city was waking up slow and tired, the sky covered in a soft gray that felt like a blanket someone forgot to shake out. People moved with heavy steps, shoulders pulled up, breaths leaving small puffs in the air. It was the kind of morning that made everyone wish they could stay home, wrapped in warm sheets with the world far away. But inside a small film studio on the east side of the city, two people stepped into a moment they did not know would change their lives. The air inside the studio was different from the street outside. It was warm and buzzing with a kind of nervous hope, the kind of feeling that rises when something important is about to happen even if nobody can tell what it is yet. The crew was arranging lights, checking microphones, arguing in low voices about angles and shadows. And in the middle of this quiet chaos stood two actors who had no idea that their connection would become the thing people talked about for years. Their names were Lily and Marcus, and though they had never met before this day, the city would one day whisper their names the way people whispered stories of unlikely magic. The hook came sharply when Marcus walked in first, holding his breath in the same careful way someone holds a fragile object. He had been in movies before, but never one that felt like it carried the weight of 1,000 expectations. He was not the kind of person who chased attention. He spoke softly, he listened closely, and he moved through life like someone who never wanted to disturb the air around him. He believed in small kindnesses, the kind that did not need an audience. But today he felt the pressure of everyone's eyes on him, not because they were judging him, but because they were hoping he would deliver something real, something the world could feel even from a distance. When he stepped onto the set, he looked around with careful eyes, noticing each detail the way someone notices details when they are trying to steady themselves. And then he saw her. Lily entered the studio with a quiet determination, the kind that showed she had carried herself through storms but did not want anyone to know. She walked with shoulders slightly tense, not out of arrogance but out of self-protection, like someone who had been misunderstood too many times but refused to let it break her spirit. She had been working in small films and local theaters, always giving everything she had, yet rarely recognized for it. She was used to fading into the background even when she was standing in the spotlight. But today, something inside her insisted this would be different. She did not know why. She only knew that something in the air felt heavy and promising at the same time. The moment their eyes met, the crew noticed something subtle but undeniable. It was not loud or dramatic. It was something quiet, something that shimmered just under the surface. A spark. Not romantic, not yet, maybe not ever. But it was something strong, something that made the room feel slightly warmer. It was the spark of respect, of recognition, of two souls who understood struggle and resilience even before they spoke a single word to each other. The director cleared his throat and stepped forward, nervous and excited because he had seen a lot of actors meet for the first time, but rarely had he seen this kind of silent electricity. He welcomed them, told them about the scene they were about to rehearse, and explained how important it was to capture the raw emotion of two strangers learning to trust each other. What he did not know was that Marcus and Lily were about to show more truth than he could have planned for. As they rehearsed their lines, something strange happened. The camera operator lowered his camera for a moment, not because he was tired, but because he felt something shifting in the air. It was as if Lily was not acting at all. Her eyes softened in a way that revealed things she had never told anyone. Marcus's voice grew steady and warm, carrying a tenderness he never used in real-life conversations. It was the kind of moment people wait for but cannot force, the kind of moment that feels real because it is real. And the crew, hardened by years of deadlines and disappointments, paused to watch. They were watching a connection that did not make noise but somehow made the room fill with emotion. After the scene ended, there was a silence so thick that even breathing seemed too loud. Lily looked away quickly, nervous because she felt something she could not explain. Marcus lowered his gaze too, unsure if he had revealed too much. The director finally clapped his hands and said the scene was good, better than good, but he asked them to run it again because he wanted to be sure it was not a lucky accident. As they prepared for another take, Marcus noticed Lily's hands trembling slightly. Without thinking, he stepped closer and said in a soft voice that everything would be all right, that they would do great. His voice was calm, gentle, filled with a sincerity that surprised even him. Lily looked up at him, and a small smile appeared, the kind that carried gratitude and relief. She whispered that she hoped she could match his energy again. Marcus smiled too, telling her that they were in this together. This small exchange should have been nothing, just actors preparing for a scene. But for the crew members watching, it felt like witnessing the moment a partnership began, a partnership built on understanding rather than ego. Later, people would describe the feeling as the Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock effect, that strange mix of humility, kindness, respect, and quiet chemistry that makes two performers feel like they live in the same emotional world, even when they barely know each other. As the day continued, their connection only grew stronger. In one scene, Lily had to express deep fear, and Marcus instinctively reached out, touching her hand in a way that grounded her. She gave the performance of her life, not because she was trying to impress anyone, but because she felt safe. In another scene, Marcus had to deliver a long monologue about loss, something he rarely talked about off the camera. Lily listened with such honesty in her eyes that Marcus felt himself slipping into a place he had avoided for years. He let the emotion rise in his voice, and when he finished, the studio stood silent again, holding its breath. The director looked at them both and knew something special was happening. They were not only lifting each other up, they were becoming mirrors of each other, reflecting strength and vulnerability in a way that made every scene feel alive. And yet, neither of them understood why this connection felt so natural. They had just met. They barely knew each other outside the lines of the script, but something was happening that neither could ignore. During a break, Lily walked outside to clear her mind. The cold air hit her face and made her eyes water slightly. She leaned against a wall and tried to steady her breath. She felt overwhelmed, not in a bad way, but in a way that made her think of all the years she had worked so hard without being seen. And now, suddenly, she felt seen. Not because Marcus was famous or experienced, but because he looked at her like she mattered. Not in a romantic sense, but in a deeply human way, the way one soul acknowledges another without needing words. Marcus stepped outside a few minutes later, not expecting to find her there. When he saw her leaning against the wall, he hesitated, unsure if she wanted company. But something inside him pushed him to walk closer. He asked if she was okay, his voice soft enough not to startle her. Lily nodded but did not look at him. She said she was fine, just tired, just overwhelmed by how intense the scenes felt. Marcus understood more than she realized. He told her that he sometimes felt the same way, that acting could feel like opening a door you are not sure you want to open. And then, without planning to, he said that acting with her felt different, easier, almost natural. Lily finally looked up at him, surprised by his honesty. She said she felt it too, that she did not know why, but she felt like he made her better, like she did not have to pretend to be strong all the time. He nodded slowly, his eyes warm. He told her that strength was not always loud, that sometimes strength is in quiet resilience, in showing up even when life has been rough. Lily swallowed hard, trying to steady the emotion rising in her chest. They stood in silence for a long moment, letting the cold air fill the space around them. The city noise hummed in the background, but neither of them paid much attention. Something was forming between them, something gentle and real, something that could not be forced and could not be ignored. They did not understand it yet, but they both felt it. When they returned to the studio, the crew could sense the subtle shift. Lily's shoulders were more relaxed, Marcus's posture more grounded. They moved around each other with a quiet ease, the kind of ease that usually takes years to build but had somehow appeared in a single morning. Their chemistry was not about romance. It was about respect, trust, and the kind of kindness that grows from empathy. But as the day wrapped up and everyone packed their equipment, something unexpected happened that neither of them could forget. As Lily reached for her coat, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and felt the color drain from her face. Marcus saw the change instantly and stepped closer, asking if she was all right. Lily did not answer. She simply stared at the message, her hand trembling, her breath quickening. Marcus gently touched her elbow, grounding her, asking again if everything was okay. Lily finally looked at him, her voice barely above a whisper. She said she did not know how to explain it, but someone she thought she had left behind had just found her again. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine, not because he knew the details, but because he could feel the fear in her voice. He asked who it was. Lily opened her mouth to answer, her eyes filled with something between dread and disbelief. And then the studio lights flickered. For a moment, everything went dim, and the hum of machines fell silent. People looked around, confused, startled. Lily's phone slipped from her hand and hit the floor with a soft thud. Marcus bent to pick it up, but before he could, Lily grabbed his arm with surprising strength. She whispered that the message was not just from someone she knew. It was a warning. Marcus opened his mouth to ask more, but the lights went out completely. The room fell into darkness, and Lily whispered 4 words that changed everything. "He knows I'm here." The power outage lasted only a few seconds, but in those few seconds the entire studio held its breath as if the darkness had swallowed the air. When the lights flickered back to life, Everyone exhaled with nervous laughter, brushing it off as a harmless electrical glitch. But Marcus saw something the others didn't. He saw the way Lily's hands shook, saw how her eyes darted around the room as if searching for danger hiding in the corners. He saw that she wasn't brushing it off like everyone else. She wasn't laughing, she wasn't relieved, she was terrified. The hook tightened when Lily took a single step backward, steady but trembling, as if the darkness had awakened something she hoped would stay asleep forever. Marcus gently picked up her phone from the floor, careful not to intrude, but unable to ignore the worry rising inside him. He handed it to her, and when her fingers touched the screen, she froze. He watched her swallow hard, her breath uneven, and he understood that whatever message she received had nothing to do with the film, nothing to do with the studio, and everything to do with a past she had fought hard to escape. Lily finally whispered that she needed fresh air. Her voice cracked slightly, not from weakness but from the strain of holding herself together. Marcus nodded, offering to walk with her, not out of obligation but out of instinct. He could see the weight she was carrying, and though he barely knew her, something inside him refused to let her carry it alone. He had spent years watching people pretend to be fine when they were. He recognized the mask she was trying to wear. He recognized the silent plea in her eyes. Outside, the air was colder than before. The sun had dipped lower, leaving long shadows that stretched across the sidewalk like dark rivers. Lily stood there quietly, hugging her arms around herself as if trying to hold her own body together. Marcus stayed a respectful distance away, waiting, giving her space but not abandoning her. He didn't ask questions right away. Sometimes questions make a wound open wider. Sometimes silence is softer, kinder. After a long moment, Lily finally spoke. She said the message had come from someone who had once held too much control over her life, someone she had managed to break free from after years of fear and confusion. She said she thought she had disappeared from his world completely. She had changed her number, moved cities, blocked every connection she could find. She had rebuilt her life piece by piece, brick by fragile brick. And now, without warning, that past had reached out again. Marcus listened with full attention, his eyes warm, steady. He did not interrupt. He did not try to solve anything. He simply listened because he understood that sometimes the most powerful act of kindness is allowing someone to speak without fear of judgment. Lily explained that the message had not threatened her directly. That was what made it worse. It had been only 4 words. "I found you again." The message felt casual on the surface, but beneath those words she heard every echo of the years she had spent trying to untangle herself from his shadow. Marcus asked softly if she thought he was nearby. Lily shook her head. She did not know. She only knew that he had found her number again, and that meant he was closer than she had ever wanted. Marcus felt a twist of protectiveness rise inside him, not fueled by pride or heroism, but by empathy. He knew what it felt like to have something from the past reach out with cold fingers. He had lived through his own ghosts, his own regrets, his own fears. He knew what it felt like when life suddenly shook the ground beneath your feet just when you thought you had finally found balance. He asked her if she wanted to notify someone, maybe a friend or someone she trusted. Lily shook her head again, saying she didn't want to cause trouble, didn't want to look dramatic, didn't want to be judged. She had spent so long being misunderstood that she now feared becoming a burden to anyone. Marcus took a small step closer, his voice gentle as he told her that she wasn't a burden, that she had a right to feel safe, and that fear wasn't something to be ashamed of. Lily's eyes softened, and for the first time since the message arrived, she exhaled in a long, shaky breath. Their conversation was interrupted when the director stepped outside to check on them. He noticed Lily's pale face and asked if she was feeling unwell. Lily forced a smile, but Marcus quickly stepped in, saying she needed a moment and that he would walk her to her ride. The director nodded, trusting them both, and went back inside to finish the day's wrap-up. Lily looked at Marcus with gratitude because he had shielded her without making her feel weak. As they walked toward the parking lot, the sky grew darker, the streetlights blinking awake in slow, tired glows. Lily's footsteps were soft and uncertain, and Marcus walked beside her calmly, not pushing, not rushing. He asked if she wanted him to stay until she drove off. She nodded. She didn't want to admit it out loud, but the thought of standing alone in the dim lot made her stomach twist. While they waited beside her car, Marcus finally asked if she felt safe going home alone. Lily hesitated. She wanted to say yes, wanted to show she was strong, but strength is not pretending. Strength is telling the truth even when it feels uncomfortable. So she shook her head slightly and whispered that she did not know. Marcus offered to drive behind her until she reached her place, just to make sure she got home safely. He promised it was no trouble, that he was heading in the same direction anyway. It was a harmless lie, but a kind one. Lily accepted, her eyes softening again. The drive home was quiet but tense. Lily checked her mirrors more than usual. Marcus followed at a steady distance, giving her space but never letting her fall out of sight. When she finally reached her building, he waited until she parked and gave him a small wave from her window. He waved back and did not leave until she was safely inside. The next morning came with a heaviness that lingered even after Lily woke up. She barely slept, tossing and turning with the message replaying in her mind. She wanted to believe it meant nothing, that it was an empty attempt at control, but old wounds rarely stay quiet when triggered. She arrived at the studio early, hoping to gather herself before the others arrived. To her surprise, Marcus was already there, sitting quietly with a script in his hands but not reading it. He looked up when she walked in, and his face softened with calm relief. He stood and asked how she was. Lily answered honestly, saying she was tired but grateful. He nodded, telling her that she didn't have to go through any of this alone. She looked at him for a long moment, realizing she had known him for less than a day yet felt safer with him than she had with many people who claimed to care for her. They rehearsed scenes together that morning, and something deeper than chemistry began to grow. Their trust strengthened. Their performances grew richer, more vulnerable, as if their emotions had merged with the script itself. The crew watched in awe as they delivered lines that felt like confessions, shared glances that felt like truths. The director whispered to one of the assistants that he had never seen two actors find such balance so quickly. But the emotional intensity did not come without cost. During one particularly emotional scene, Lily's hands trembled again. Marcus noticed immediately and gently squeezed her hand between takes, grounding her the way he had grounded her the day before. She squeezed back, not out of fear, but out of appreciation. Later that afternoon, the director asked Marcus to rehearse a dramatic sequence alone, a monologue filled with grief and regret. As Marcus prepared, Lily watched from the side, seeing the way he closed his eyes and breathed slowly as if reaching into a painful memory. When he delivered the monologue, the room fell silent again. His voice cracked at the perfect moment, not because he planned it, but because he was speaking from a place deep inside him. Lily felt her own eyes fill with tears, not from the script, but from the honesty he brought to it. After the monologue, Marcus sat down, breathing heavily, emotion still shaking through him. Lily approached slowly, sat beside him, and whispered that the performance was beautiful. Marcus looked up, and something unspoken passed between them, an understanding that they were helping each other heal in ways they did not yet comprehend. But peace never stays long when shadows are nearby. As the day was ending, Lily's phone buzzed again. She hesitated before checking it. Marcus noticed the shift in her posture, the way her shoulders tensed, and he walked toward her quietly. Lily read the message, and her breath caught. Her face paled. Marcus asked what it said, his voice low and steady. Lily whispered the words slowly, as if speaking them made them more real. "Nice scene today. You always were dramatic." Marcus felt a cold ripple spread through him. The message wasn't just a threat. It meant the sender was watching. It meant he knew where she worked. It meant he had been close enough to see her perform that day. Lily's hands shook again, worse than before. Marcus gently took her phone, his jaw tightening as he read the message. He felt something ignite inside him, a quiet fire fueled by the need to protect someone who did not deserve to be pulled back into fear. He told her they needed to talk to someone, maybe security, maybe the director, maybe the police. Lily shook her head in panic, afraid of making things worse. Marcus took her shoulders gently and told her she was not alone, that they would handle this together, that she had people now, even if she did not believe it yet. Before Lily could respond, the studio doors opened with a loud creak. The sound echoed through the room, making both of them jump. A shadow moved in the hallway just beyond the entrance. Marcus stepped slightly in front of Lily, instinctively shielding her. A figure stood at the doorway, their outline barely visible against the dim hallway light. The crew had already gone home. The director was in his office. The hallway should have been empty. Marcus swallowed hard, his pulse quickening. Lily clutched the edge of the table, her breath trembling. The silhouette shifted, stepping slowly into the light. And Lily whispered, barely audible, "No, it can't be." The figure stepped forward. And that was when they both realized. The danger had found them sooner than they thought the stranger in the door. The studio was supposed to be quiet at this hour. The crew had gone home, the equipment had been powered down, and the building usually fell into a peaceful stillness that wrapped around its empty rooms like a soft blanket. That was why the faint footsteps coming from the hallway felt so alarming. The hook tightened the moment the stranger stepped into the doorway, his presence sharp and unsettling in the dim light. The sound of his shoes echoed against the concrete floor, turning the silent studio into a place where every noise felt amplified, every shadow felt suspicious, and every breath carried a hint of danger. Marcus moved instinctively, placing himself between Lily and the figure, his body tense, his posture protective without being aggressive. Lily's breath hitched in her throat, her heart pounding so hard she felt it in her fingertips. For a terrifying second, she thought the man in the doorway might be the one who had sent the messages, the one she had feared for years. The shape of him, the way he stood there without speaking, made her stomach twist. It felt like the past had stepped into the present with cold, unforgiving hands. But when the man took another step forward, his face finally came into the light, and the tension in Lily's shoulders loosened, not completely, but enough for her breath to flow again. It wasn't him. It wasn't the person she feared. It was someone else, someone familiar, someone she had not expected to see at all. The man introduced himself with a calm voice, saying he was part of the building's security team. He apologized for startling them and explained that he had been doing his usual evening round when he noticed lights still on in the studio. He said he was checking to make sure everything was all right. The relief that washed over Marcus was slow but real, like warm water returning to frozen hands. He gave a polite nod, thanking the guard for stopping by. But Lily remained stiff, her eyes still wide, her breath uneven. She knew he was the person she feared, but her body didn't know how to relax yet. Fear doesn't disappear just because logic tells it to. Fear has its own heartbeat. The guard noticed Lily's distressed expression and asked if everything was okay. Marcus answered gently, saying it had been a long day and they were wrapping up. The guard nodded and offered to walk them out if they needed. They declined politely, telling him they were leaving soon. He left with a small wave, and his footsteps grew softer until the hallway fell silent again. As soon as he was gone, Lily's knees weakened. She lowered herself onto a nearby chair, burying her face in her hands. Marcus crouched beside her, speaking in a soft voice that carried warmth and steadiness. He told her she was safe, at least in that moment. He told her that whoever was sending those messages wasn't in the building. He told her she wasn't alone. Lily took several shaky breaths, trying to calm the storm swirling inside her. She whispered that every unexpected shadow made her mind jump back into the worst memories, as if the past had never actually gone away. She said she hated feeling afraid, hated feeling powerless, hated that one message could undo all the strength she had built over the years. Marcus listened patiently, nodding in understanding. He told her that fear didn't make her weak, that surviving everything she had been through made her stronger than she realized. He reminded her that she was standing here, facing everything instead of running. Their conversation was interrupted when the director walked into the room, holding a folder of notes. He looked at them both with concern, asking why they were still there. Lily quickly straightened up, wiping her eyes discreetly. Marcus stepped in again, explaining that they had stayed behind to finish rehearsing and had lost track of time. The director believed him, unaware of the emotional storm that had passed through the room just moments earlier. He handed them the schedule for the next day and wished them both a good night. After he left, Marcus told Lily he would walk her to her car again. She didn't argue this time. She didn't pretend to be fine. She just nodded. They walked together through the dim hallway, their footsteps the only sound in the quiet building. Outside, the parking lot was nearly empty, lit only by a few flickering lamps that cast long shadows across the concrete. Lily felt her stomach tighten again, her senses alert to every small noise, every distant movement. Marcus stayed close, not touching her but staying near enough to keep her grounded. Before she got into her car, Marcus gently asked if she had told anyone else about the person who was messaging her. Lily shook her head. She said she had spent years trying to prove to everyone that she had moved on, that she was strong, that she had control over her life. She didn't want anyone to look at her with pity again. Marcus told her pity and support were not the same thing, and that she deserved support. She didn't respond. She simply whispered thank you before getting into her car. Marcus followed her home again, keeping a steady distance but never drifting far. When she walked into her building and waved from inside, he finally drove off. But even after he reached his own home, he could not shake the feeling that the messages were not random or accidental. Someone had found her and someone was watching, and Marcus hated the thought that she might face that fear alone. The next morning came with a strange heaviness. Marcus arrived earlier than usual, hoping to settle his thoughts before the day began. But when he entered the studio, he found Lily already there again, sitting alone on the edge of the stage with her arms wrapped tightly around herself. She looked exhausted, as if sleep had refused to visit her. Marcus approached quietly, sitting beside her without saying a word at first. After a moment, he asked if she had gotten any more messages. She nodded slowly, holding out her phone. Marcus took it gently and read the latest text. "You can pretend you're safe, but I remember everything." Marcus felt anger rise in his chest, steady but controlled. He asked if she recognized the number. She said no, but she had a feeling she knew who it was. Her voice trembled as she explained that the man who used to control her life had a way of reaching into places he shouldn't. She said he was clever and patient, the kind of person who liked to wait until someone relaxed before making his presence known again. Marcus asked if this man had ever physically hurt her. Lily hesitated, then shook her head. She said he never laid a hand on her, but sometimes emotional wounds build cages that feel just as real as physical ones. She said he manipulated her, isolated her, made her doubt her own thoughts until she felt like a shadow of herself. She said she had worked so hard to break free and rebuild her sense of self, and now he was trying to pull her back into a world she fought to escape. Marcus felt a deep ache in his chest, not just out of sympathy but out of admiration. He admired her resilience, her courage, the quiet strength she carried despite everything. He told her she wasn't alone anymore, that she didn't have to face this in silence. Lily looked at him with tired eyes, and for the first time that morning, a small spark of hope appeared in them. Their conversation ended when the crew began arriving, filling the studio with voices, laughter, and busy footsteps. Lily forced a smile, trying to hide the fear inside. Marcus stayed close throughout the morning, not hovering but remaining nearby. Each time their eyes met, she felt a bit steadier. During a lunch break, Lily received another message. This one was shorter, colder. "You think he can help you?" Lily's heart skipped, her breath trembled, her mind raced. Whoever was watching had noticed Marcus too. She stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. Marcus was beside her in seconds, asking what happened. She showed him the message with shaking hands. Marcus felt his jaw tighten, his breath deepening with controlled anger. He told her this was no longer something to ignore. They found a quiet corner behind the set where they wouldn't be overheard. Marcus told her firmly that they needed to alert the director or someone else in authority. Lily shook her head, panic rising, saying she didn't want the studio to see her as unstable or dramatic. Marcus placed his hands gently on her upper arms, looking into her eyes with steady sincerity. He told her this wasn't drama. This was safety. He told her she deserved to feel safe, not only for herself but for everyone working here. Before Lily could respond, a crew member rushed toward them, calling out that the director wanted them both immediately. The urgency in his tone made Marcus's stomach drop. Something was wrong. When they entered the director's office, they found him standing by his desk, his expression a mix of confusion and concern. He held a small envelope in his hand. He said it had been delivered personally just minutes ago. The envelope had Lily's name on it. Handwritten. Lily froze. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. The director gave Lily the envelope slowly, asking if everything was all right. Lily couldn't speak, so Marcus stepped in again, saying they would handle it and thanking the director. The director nodded uneasily and stepped outside, closing the door gently behind him. Lily stared at the envelope with trembling fingers. Marcus stayed close, his presence steady and grounding. He asked if she wanted him to open it for her. She nodded, unable to trust her own hands. Marcus opened the envelope carefully, pulling out a single folded note. The handwriting was sharp and familiar to Lily, even from a distance. Marcus unfolded the note and read it slowly, his expression darkening with every word. And when he finished, he felt all the air leave his lungs. The note said, "I'm closer than you think. Look around. Someone you trust has already let me in." Lily's knees gave out. Marcus caught her before she fell. And just as she steadied herself, a loud knock echoed at the office door. Someone was standing on the other side. Waiting, the circle begins to tighten. The knock at the office door echoed like a warning shot, sharp and sudden, cutting through the air and freezing both Lily and Marcus in place. The studio had been buzzing just moments before, but now everything seemed to fall into a fragile silence. Even the hum of distant equipment felt muted, as if the building itself was waiting for something to break. Lily's heartbeat thudded in her ears, louder than the knock itself. Marcus felt her tense beside him, her breath held tight in her chest. He instinctively stepped between her and the door, his posture strong but calm, his breath steady even as worry tugged at his ribs. The hook tightened when the knock came again, firmer this time, forcing the air in the room to thicken with anxiety. Marcus called out, asking who it was, his voice steady but protective. A soft voice responded from the other side, saying it was just one of the lighting crew checking on the director's updated notes. The tension in the air loosened slightly, but not enough to let anyone breathe comfortably. Lily nodded weakly when Marcus looked back at her, silently giving him permission to answer the door. Marcus opened it with caution, revealing a harmless young crew member holding a clipboard. He apologized for interrupting and left quickly, unaware of the storm swirling behind that door. Marcus closed it again, locking it without hesitation. Lily wrapped her arms around herself, her breath trembling with the aftershock of fear. The note still lay on the desk, its message burning through the air like a spark waiting to ignite something dangerous. Marcus picked it up again, reading the line that told them someone she trusted had already let the sender in. The words crawled through his mind like creeping vines, tightening with every second. Who could it be? Someone in the studio, someone close to her. Someone who had seen her in the past few days. Lily's thoughts spiraled fast and heavy. She pressed her hands against her temples, trying to stay grounded. She whispered that she didn't know who to trust, that she didn't understand how this person had gotten so close without her noticing. Marcus knelt beside her, placing a gentle hand on her arm, reminding her that fear can twist reality, make every shadow feel like a threat. He told her they would figure it out together, step by step, without rushing into panic. His voice was soft but confident, a quiet anchor pulling her away from the edge. But even his calmness couldn't erase the feeling that something in the studio had shifted. Something was wrong, something was watching. When they left the office, the hallway felt colder than before. The fluorescent lights flickered inconsistently, casting strange shadows along the walls. Lily walked close to Marcus, her shoulders tight, her eyes scanning every corner. The building was still filled with people, but that didn't bring comfort. It only made her wonder who among them might be involved, who might have opened the door to the past she feared. The director called them over to review the afternoon schedule, unaware of the danger hovering around them. Lily tried to focus, but her mind kept drifting back to the note. Marcus noticed her distraction and gently nudged her, whispering that it was okay to breathe, that she wasn't going through this alone. She nodded, trying to steady her thoughts, reminding herself that Marcus had become a source of safety she hadn't expected but desperately needed. While the director explained the next scene they would film, a shadow moved in the corner of the studio. Lily flinched slightly, her eyes locking onto the figure walking past the equipment racks. It was just a crew member, someone she recognized faintly from the prop team. But the way he looked at her, too long, too curious, sent a shiver down her spine. Marcus noticed the shift in her posture and followed her gaze. The man walked away quickly, leaving only a faint trail of unease behind him. They continued rehearsing, but the emotional weight of the day pressed hard against them. The scene required vulnerability and trust, two things they had no shortage of, yet everything around them felt shaky, unpredictable. Lily struggled through the first few takes, her lines trembling with fear she tried to hide. Marcus stepped closer during a break, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder, telling her she didn't have to fight the fear alone. She inhaled deeply, letting his support settle inside her. Gradually, her performance stabilized, and the scene unfolded with slow, powerful emotion. The crew watched with admiration, unaware that the raw vulnerability they were witnessing came from real fear, not just acting. Marcus and Lily moved through the scene with honest connection, each gesture carrying more meaning than the script intended. Even the director was stunned by the depth they brought to it. But the moment the scene wrapped, Lily flinched at the buzzing of her phone. She hesitated before checking it, her breath catching when she saw it was another message. Marcus walked over, concern already etched on his face. She showed him the screen. The message read, "You look better when you're scared." Lily's breath broke into a shaky gasp. Marcus clenched his jaw, anger flashing in his eyes. He asked her firmly if she was ready to report this. Lily hesitated, her thoughts a whirlwind of fear and uncertainty. She whispered that she didn't want to bring chaos into the studio, didn't want everyone to see her breaking apart. Marcus stepped closer, looking at her with steady compassion, telling her that wanting safety was not causing chaos. He told her she deserved protection as much as anyone. Their conversation was interrupted again, this time by the sound of a loud crash coming from the back of the studio. Equipment fell to the ground, metal clanging and echoing off the high ceilings. People rushed toward the noise, shouting, asking what happened. Lily froze. Marcus grabbed her hand gently but firmly, guiding her to stay behind him as they approached the commotion. They found a stack of lighting fixtures toppled over, scattered across the floor. A crew member was picking himself up, rubbing his arm where he had hit the ground. He said he had been adjusting one of the stands when it suddenly fell toward him, as if someone had pushed it from behind. But he insisted he hadn't seen anyone. He said he had felt someone nearby, but didn't know who. Lily's entire body tensed. Marcus's eyes narrowed, scanning the crowded room, watching for anyone who looked out of place or too calm. The director told everyone to take a short break while the mess was cleaned up. Lily and Marcus stepped aside, finding a small corner behind one of the large sets. Lily whispered that she felt like someone was always one step behind her, never fully visible, never close enough to confront, but always close enough to frighten. Marcus squeezed her hand gently, telling her they would not let whoever this was control her life again. As they stood in that quiet corner, Lily confessed something that made Marcus's heart ache. She admitted that before she escaped her past, she had been isolated from everyone she cared about. She had been manipulated into believing she was incapable of making her own decisions. She said that the man from her past had a way of twisting truth, bending her self-worth until she felt like a puppet he controlled. She said she had spent years piecing herself back together, learning how to trust again, learning how to breathe without fear. And now, with every message, he was trying to break that recovery apart. Marcus looked at her with deep understanding. He told her that her strength was not fragile, that her past did not decide her future, that the man who tried to control her no longer had power unless she gave it to him, something she wasn't doing anymore. Tears welled in her eyes, but she blinked them back, refusing to let fear claim her again. The afternoon passed in a blur of filming and mild chaos. Lily tried her best to focus on the work, but every passing face felt suspicious, every overheard whisper felt threatening. Marcus stayed close, always watching, always protective. They moved like two halves of a single defensive shield, covering each other from invisible blows. When the day finally wrapped, the director dismissed everyone, thanking them for their hard work. Lily did not move immediately. She lingered near the doorway, hesitant to step outside into the dim evening light. Marcus noticed her hesitation and quietly offered to walk with her again. She nodded, grateful for the comfort of his presence. As they walked toward the parking lot, the wind was sharper, colder, as if carrying the weight of unseen eyes. Lily's footsteps were slow, her gaze shifting constantly. Marcus remained beside her, calm, alert, prepared for anything. When they reached her car, she paused, her hand trembling as she reached for the door handle. Then her phone buzzed again. She froze. Marcus stepped closer, asking softly if she wanted him to check it first. She handed him the phone silently, unable to steady her breath. Marcus opened the message, and his entire body went still. The message said, "Nice walk, you always choose the wrong people to trust." Marcus inhaled sharply, his eyes darkening. Lily felt her heart drop into her stomach. She whispered that whoever was watching them had been close, too close. Marcus scanned the parking lot, his eyes sharp, searching for any figure that didn't belong. The lot was mostly empty. Only a few cars remained. Shadows stretched long across the pavement, shifting with the wind. Then Lily noticed something taped to the side window of her car. A small note. White paper. Handwritten. Marcus reached for it carefully, his fingers tense. He peeled it off the glass and unfolded it, his breath unsteady. Lily's voice trembled as she asked what it said. Marcus swallowed hard before reading the words aloud. "You two look closer every day. I wonder how long until he learns the truth about what you did." Lily's face drained of color. Marcus looked at her, confused. "What did he mean?" he asked gently. Lily shook her head slowly, but her eyes were full of something deeper. Fear, regret, a secret. And before Marcus could ask again, a loud engine roared from the far end of the lot. A black car peeled out of the shadows, speeding straight toward them. Marcus grabbed Lily's hand. "Run," he whispered. And they did. But the car kept coming. Faster, closer. And as the headlights surged forward, Lily whispered the words Marcus never expected to hear. "Marcus, there's something you don't know about me." The tires screeched. The lights flashed brighter. And the world around them exploded into motion, the truth she tried to bury. The parking lot became a blur of noise, wind, and fear as the black car shot toward them with terrifying speed. Marcus tightened his grip on Lily's hand, pulling her with him as they sprinted across the pavement, their footsteps loud but still drowned out by the roar of the engine. The world narrowed to flashing headlights, uneven breaths, and the pounding rhythm of survival. Lily's heart raced so violently that it felt like it was trying to escape her chest. Marcus didn't look back at the car. He focused forward, guiding her toward the far side of the lot, where a line of thick concrete barriers offered some small protection. The hook tightened when the car swerved sharply, its tires screeching, sending a burst of burned rubber into the air. Lily stumbled, but Marcus caught her arm before she fell. They slid behind one of the barriers just as the vehicle screeched to a hard stop several yards away. The engine revved loudly, like a growl from something hungry and relentless. Marcus shielded Lily with his body, holding his breath as the car idled there, its windows impossible to see through in the dark. Lily pressed her hands over her mouth to stop herself from making a sound. Tears blurred her vision, not from weakness but from the shock of how quickly danger had arrived. Marcus kept one hand against her back, steady and warm, grounding her even as fear clawed at both of them. He leaned closer, whispering that they needed to stay quiet, stay still, wait for the moment when the driver slipped or made a mistake. The car idled for a long, agonizing moment. The engine rumbling felt like a threat by itself, a warning that whoever was inside was no longer content with messages or notes. The danger had stepped closer into physical space, into their lives. Marcus felt a cold anger rise inside him, not wild, not reckless, but controlled, fiercely protective. If someone wanted to hurt Lily, they would have to get through him first, and he had no intention of letting that happen. Then, as suddenly as it had appeared, the car sped off. Its tires screeched again, kicking up dust and loose gravel before disappearing into the night. The sound echoed in the distance long after the car was gone. Marcus waited several seconds, making sure it wasn't circling back, before finally letting out the breath he had been holding. Lily collapsed into his arms, trembling violently. He held her tightly, his hand cupping the back of her head in a gesture that was both gentle and protective. She whispered that she was sorry over and over, her voice shaking with guilt and fear. Marcus pulled back just enough to look at her, confusion in his eyes. He told her she had nothing to apologize for, that she had done nothing wrong. But Lily shook her head, tears streaming down her cheeks, insisting that he didn't understand, that he didn't know everything, that she wasn't who he thought she was. Marcus gently lifted her chin so she would look at him, assuring her that nothing she could say would make him abandon her. He told her that everyone has a past, everyone has secrets, and that whatever she had done or survived didn't erase the person he saw in front of him, strong, humble, kind, resilient. But Lily shook her head harder, her breath breaking, her voice cracking as she whispered that someone had been hurt because of her, that someone had paid a price for trying to protect her, and that the man who had sent the messages never forgave her for what happened. Marcus listened with quiet patience as Lily finally let the words spill out, words she had kept buried for years. She told him that before she escaped, she had been involved with a man who controlled every part of her life. He isolated her from friends, monitored her messages, twisted her reality until she doubted her own mind. He told her she was nothing without him, that nobody else would ever want her, that he was the only person who could understand her. She believed him for a long time because he spoke with confidence, and because he knew exactly how to break someone without ever raising his hand. But one night something changed. Lily found the courage to try to leave. She packed a small bag and tried to sneak out of the apartment where they lived. But as she opened the door, she ran into a friend who had gone looking for her, worried after not hearing from her for days. That friend tried to help her escape, tried to shield her, tried to stand between her and the controlling man when he finally discovered what was happening. Lily's voice cracked as she explained how the argument escalated, how the controlling man began yelling, accusing, manipulating, twisting every word into something ugly. He didn't hurt her physically, but he hurt the friend. Not with fists, not with weapons, but with words so cruel they cut through the air like knives. He threatened to ruin the friend's life, threatened their career, their reputation, their future. The friend left shaken, emotionally shattered, convinced they had put Lily in danger by trying to help. Lily ran that night, leaving everything behind. She changed her number, moved cities, cut all ties, and tried to rebuild her life quietly. But she never forgot the guilt she carried for dragging that friend into a storm they didn't deserve. She never forgave herself for the way her past had harmed someone else. And she knew the controlling man never forgave her either. Marcus listened to every word, his heart aching but his expression calm. He told her softly that her past didn't make her guilty, that her friend had made their own choice to help because they cared. He told her that the controlling man had manipulated her with fear and shame, that he had used cruelty to keep her silent, and that none of it was her fault. Lily covered her face with her hands, saying she felt like a danger to everyone who stood near her, that her past kept reaching out, dragging innocent people into its orbit. Marcus took her hands gently, lowering them from her face so he could look into her eyes. He told her firmly that she was not dangerous, that she was not responsible for the choices of someone who controlled and manipulated her. He told her that the only danger was the man who refused to let her go. And he told her that as long as she kept running from her past, it would keep chasing her. Lily's breath trembled. She whispered that she didn't know how to stop running. Marcus said she didn't have to figure it out alone. Before either of them could say more, a voice called out from across the parking lot. It was the night security guard rushing toward them with concern on his face. He asked if they were okay, saying he had seen a car speeding out of the lot and heard loud noises. Marcus explained that they had been startled but were fine. Lily remained silent, clutching her arms tightly around herself. The security guard offered to walk them back inside or to their vehicles. Marcus politely declined, saying he would get Lily home safely. The guard nodded and walked off, unaware of the danger that had just passed through the lot. Marcus turned back to Lily, brushing a strand of hair from her face. He asked if she felt safe enough to drive. She shook her head, her hands still trembling too much to hold the steering wheel. Marcus offered to drive her home, and she nodded gratefully, handing him her keys. The car ride was quiet at first, filled with the soft hum of the engine and the quiet ache of everything unsaid. Lily leaned her forehead against the cold window, watching the city lights blur into streaks of gold and white. Marcus kept his eyes on the road, driving carefully, making sure not to jolt her or heighten her anxiety. After several minutes, he asked gently if she wanted to stay somewhere else for the night. Maybe a hotel, maybe a friend's place, somewhere she felt safe. Lily whispered that she didn't know where safety was anymore. Marcus told her that safety didn't have to be a place. Sometimes, safety was a person. She turned her head slightly, looking at him with eyes filled with exhaustion and gratitude. She whispered that she didn't want to bring danger to his life. Marcus shook his head, saying danger was already here, and running from it didn't make it vanish. He told her he wasn't leaving her, not now, not when things were hardest. She felt a warmth rise in her chest at his words, a fragile comfort she had not felt in years. When they arrived at her building, Marcus walked her inside, staying close but not crowding her. She unlocked her apartment, hesitating at the doorway as if crossing the threshold meant stepping into another uncertain chapter. Marcus asked if she wanted him to stay for a while. Lily nodded, not trusting her voice to form words. Inside, her apartment was small but warm, filled with gentle colors and soft lighting. Marcus sat on the couch, and Lily sat beside him, leaning into the cushions as if the furniture itself might hold her together. Silence stretched between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was the kind of silence that allowed emotions to settle without pressure. Eventually, Marcus asked if she felt safe enough for him to leave. Lily admitted quietly that she didn't. Marcus nodded, telling her he could sleep on the couch if she wanted company. She gave a small, grateful smile. She whispered that she didn't want to be alone, not tonight. Marcus settled in on the couch while Lily changed into comfortable clothes. She returned with a blanket and handed it to him, thanking him again. Marcus told her she didn't need to thank him. He said he cared about her, enough to stay, enough to protect her, enough to stand beside her no matter what the past tried to take. She looked down, her voice soft as she whispered that he was the first person in a long time who made her feel safe. They said goodnight, and Lily went to her bedroom, leaving the door slightly open. Marcus lay awake for a long time, listening to the quiet hum of the apartment, alert to every distant noise. He wasn't afraid for himself. He was afraid for her. Sometime after midnight, Lily's door creaked open softly. Marcus sat up quickly but relaxed when he saw her standing there, wrapped in a blanket, her expression fragile. She whispered that she couldn't sleep, that the silence made her imagine someone standing outside the door. Marcus stood and walked to her, giving her a reassuring smile. He asked if she wanted to sit in the living room with him for a while. She nodded. They sat together on the couch, the soft glow of a small lamp filling the space with warmth. Lily leaned her head on Marcus's shoulder, her eyes finally closing as exhaustion pulled her into sleep. Marcus stayed still, letting her rest, watching over her with steady patience. But while he watched her, something caught his eye. A faint red light blinking near the window. A small dot. A tiny reflection. Marcus's breath froze. He knew what that was. His heartbeat pounded in his ears as he realized the truth. Someone was watching them from outside. Someone was recording. He gently shifted Lily's head onto a pillow without waking her, then moved silently toward the window. The red light blinked again, reflecting off the glass. Marcus reached for the curtain, but before he could open it, the light vanished. Someone outside had moved the camera. And as Marcus stood there, breath sharp, heart racing, a soft tap echoed on the window pane. A tap meant only for him the ending that became a beginning. The soft tap on the window pane felt like a ripple running through the quiet apartment, fragile yet terrifying, the kind of sound that turned the air cold and made the shadows sharpen themselves. Marcus stood still, his breath caught in his chest, listening for another tap. The silence that followed was heavy, the kind that could crush even the strongest instincts. Lily slept peacefully on the couch behind him, unaware that danger hovered just inches away from where they stood. Marcus moved slowly, careful not to wake her, careful not to draw attention from whoever might be outside. The hook tightened as Marcus gently pushed the curtain aside with 2 fingers, revealing the dark world beyond the glass. The street was dimly lit by a few flickering lamps. The trees outside swayed lazily in the wind. A parked car across the street sat still as stone. Nothing moved, no silhouette, no footsteps, not even the faint glow of a camera light. Marcus scanned the area with narrowed eyes, searching for anything out of place. But the tap had been real. Someone had been there. Someone close enough to touch the window. Someone bold enough to approach without fear. Marcus let the curtain fall back into place, his mind racing. He returned to the couch and sat beside Lily, keeping his voice steady as he gently whispered her name. She stirred, her eyes fluttering open in confusion. He told her quietly that someone had been outside the window. Lily jolted awake completely, her features tightening with fear, her hands clutching the blanket around her. Marcus reassured her that whoever it was had already backed away, that they were safe for now, but they needed to act quickly. Lily's breath came fast and uneven. She whispered that this had gone too far, that she couldn't keep pretending her past would leave her alone if she didn't look at it. Marcus nodded, telling her that fear grows louder when we try to silence it, but loses power when we confront it. He asked her gently if she was ready to stop running. Lily closed her eyes for a moment, gathering strength from somewhere deep within herself. When she opened them again, she nodded. They decided to leave the apartment immediately. Marcus helped her gather her things, just essentials, nothing more. The building felt strangely quiet as they walked down the hall toward the elevator. Lily stayed close to Marcus, her steps small but determined. When the elevator arrived, the doors opened with a soft chime that felt out of place in the tense silence. They stepped inside, and the doors slid shut, moving them down toward what felt like an uncertain future. Outside, the night air was sharp and cold. Marcus scanned the street before guiding Lily to his car. He kept his tone calm, reassuring her as he opened the door and helped her inside. As he walked around to the driver's side, he felt eyes on him, not from a person he could see, but from the corners where shadows gathered too comfortably. He got into the car quickly, locking all the doors. They drove through the quiet streets, the faint glow of streetlights stretching across the windows in long orange streaks. Lily sat with her hands clasped tightly in her lap, her gaze distant but focused. Marcus asked gently where she wanted to go. Lily inhaled deeply, then whispered that she wanted to go to the police station, not just to report what happened, but to finally tell the truth she had kept inside for years. Marcus nodded with steady approval. This was the turning point she needed, and he would stay beside her for all of it. When they arrived at the station, they walked inside together. The small lobby was quiet, filled with soft, fluorescent light and the faint sound of a printer in a back room. A kind-faced officer greeted them, asking how he could help. Lily glanced at Marcus with uncertainty. He gave her a gentle nod. She stepped forward, her voice trembling but honest, saying she needed to report harassment and threats from someone from her past. The officer listened carefully, asking her to sit down and tell him everything. Marcus stayed beside her the entire time, offering quiet support whenever her breath faltered. She told the officer about the messages, the notes, the car in the parking lot, the tap on the window. She explained the history she had tried to escape, the emotional manipulation, the guilt, the fear. The officer's expression remained respectful and serious, taking notes, asking thoughtful questions, but never pushing too hard. When she showed him the messages, the officer's eyes darkened with concern. He excused himself for a moment to speak with another officer in a nearby room. When he returned, he told them that a team would be sent to check her apartment building immediately, and that they would do everything they could to identify the sender based on the messages and the pattern of behavior. Lily felt a wave of relief wash over her, not complete relief, but enough to let her breathe again. Marcus placed a supportive hand on her back, whispering that she had done the right thing. She nodded, tears filling her eyes, but this time they were tears of release, not fear. The officer recommended they stay somewhere safe for the night, somewhere monitored and well lit. Marcus suggested a hotel not far from the station, a place with good security and a calm atmosphere. Lily agreed. They thanked the officer and stepped outside into the early morning air. The sky was beginning to lighten, painted in pale shades of blue and pink. Dawn was coming, soft and slow, like a promise that the darkness couldn't last forever. They checked into the hotel quietly, the desk attendant handing them a keycard with a polite smile. Marcus requested a room on an upper floor, away from street-level windows, and the attendant obliged. Once inside the room, Lily sat on the edge of the bed, her shoulders heavy but her eyes much clearer than before. Marcus sat beside her and told her he was proud of her for facing something so terrifying. She whispered that she didn't think she could have done it without him. Marcus shook his head, insisting she had found the strength herself. He had only reminded her it was there. They talked for a long time about fear, about resilience, about the way people shape each other without even trying. Lily told Marcus he had shown her a kind of safety she hadn't felt in years, a safety built on respect and understanding. Marcus told her she had taught him that trust was something that could grow even in difficult soil, that courage wasn't always loud, and that vulnerability was not weakness but honesty. As morning sunlight grew brighter outside, Lily finally felt ready to rest. Marcus promised to stay awake a little longer to keep watch, and she nodded, trusting him deeply. She lay down on the bed, pulling the blanket over herself, her eyes drifting closed. Marcus sat in the armchair by the window, watching the city slowly wake up below them. A few hours later, his phone vibrated softly in his hand. He looked down, expecting a message from the police. Instead, he saw a number he didn't recognize. His heart tensed, but he opened the message. It said, "Thank you for taking care of her. I know what I did was wrong. I won't come near her again." Marcus stared at the screen, trying to decipher the tone. The words were simple, too simple, carrying no hostility, no threats. Only something strange and unfamiliar, almost regret. He stood quietly and walked to the far side of the room so he wouldn't disturb Lily. He replied with caution, asking who it was. The reply came almost instantly. "I was the one sending the messages. I wanted her attention. I wanted her fear, but I see now that she has someone protecting her, someone kind, someone she deserves." Marcus felt a mix of relief and unease. He asked where the sender was, whether he planned to cause harm. The sender replied, "I'm leaving the city. She won't hear from me again. Don't tell her I reached out. Just let her heal without knowing I finally stopped chasing her." Marcus stared at the final message for a long moment. He didn't know if the person was telling the truth. He didn't know if the danger was truly gone. But he knew one thing: Lily had taken the hardest step, and now she had room to breathe, room to rebuild, room to grow. He deleted the messages, deciding that Lily didn't need to hear them, not now, not after everything she had survived. She needed peace, not more uncertainty. He promised himself that he would stay beside her for as long as she needed, not to rescue her, but to walk with her as she reclaimed her life. When Lily finally woke, she looked rested in a way Marcus had never seen before. She sat up slowly, her eyes soft and warm. He walked over to her and asked how she felt. She smiled, a small, fragile, beautiful smile, and whispered that she felt free. They talked for hours as sunlight filled the room, their voices calm, their connection deeper than ever. They didn't talk about romance or promises or futures written in stone. They talked about trust, respect, and the kind of companionship built from truth and courage. It was enough, more than enough. In the days that followed, Lily continued working on the film with Marcus by her side. The studio adjusted its security, the crew looked out for her, and the director supported her quietly but sincerely. Lily and Marcus's chemistry on-screen only grew stronger, fueled by the real bond they had formed. People whispered about it, calling it rare, calling it magic, calling it a quiet kind of miracle. Something reminiscent of the deep, humble connection that had once made another acting pair unforgettable. And late one evening, as they wrapped a scene filled with honest emotion, Marcus looked at her with soft eyes and whispered that she had changed him. Lily smiled back, her expression gentle, her heart full. She told him he had helped her become someone she thought she had lost a long time ago. They walked off the set together, side by side, and for the first time in years, Lily felt the sun inside her chest rather than the shadows. Marcus felt the same warmth, knowing their story was only beginning. And somewhere far away, in a place where the city lights could no longer touch him, the man from Lily's past drove out of town. He didn't send another message. He didn't tap another window. He didn't chase another shadow. He disappeared into the distance, swallowed by the road and the choices he finally stopped making. The danger was gone. The past had loosened its grip, and Lily stepped into her new life, with resilience lighting her every step. Marcus walked beside her, not as her savior but as her equal. Their story didn't end with fear. It ended with strength. And it began with kindness.